husband comes home to find his wife on the floor unconscious, and the police decide that he's the one to blame. But a few years later, that would all change when new evidence came out about his conviction. This is the twisted case of Betsy Faria. Hello friend, and welcome back to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also deep sea fishing. That's right, I'm a fisherman. But today we're looking at the case of Betsy Faria, and there's a lot of twists and turns. Our story takes place in Troy, Missouri, which is a town in Lincoln County with a population of around 13,000 as of 2020. There's not an insane amount of things to do here, but there are a few notable people such as Deanna Price, who is an American track and field athlete. In 2021, she set the American record for the best hammer throw, which was a whopping 80.31 meters or 263 feet and 5 inches at the 2021 US Olympic Trials. Go Deanna! But that's not why we're there today. Elizabeth Meyer Betsy Faria was born on March 25th of 1969 to Judy and Kenneth Geiger in Richmond Heights, St. Louis County, Missouri. She had 3 sisters who were Mary, Julie, and Pamela, and she was named after her great-aunt Betsy. A friend of hers from high school named Michael Ett said that Betsy was the kind of person that made everyone feel like they had a friend. Another friend from her childhood named Rita Wolf said how great of a person she was and how she always managed to make time for everyone. Not too much is shared about Betsy's life, but we know that she had a long-time relationship with an unnamed man and had 2 daughters from it named Leah and Mariah Day. A bit of time after this, she would meet a man named Russ Faria, and before no time, they began dating and ended up getting married. Betsy worked full-time at a State Farm office and also was a part-time DJ, while Russ worked as a contractor flipping houses. Things between them were a bit rocky at times, and Russ said that they had their fair share of separations and infidelities. In 2010, Betsy would be diagnosed with breast cancer, and the doctor said that she had about 3 to 5 years to live because it spread to her liver. So during the final few years of her life, her family just wanted to make the most of the time that they had together. In November of 2011, Betsy and Russ went on a celebration of life cruise, and they swam with dolphins, which fulfilled one of Betsy's lifelong dreams. A few weeks later, Betsy had started to make concerns to a few people about her daughter's financial well-being once she passed away. These people included her father, Kenneth, and one of her close friends, Pam Hupp. Betsy and Pam met for the first time around 2001 while working together at State Farm, and they were pretty opposite in personalities, but somehow became friends because Betsy had to train her. They started to fall out of touch with each other, but Pam really started to come back around and be there for Betsy when she learned about her breast cancer in 2010. Betsy had talked to her father and Pam about how she was worried that Russ and her 2 daughters wouldn't be responsible with handling the money she was going to leave behind with her life insurance policy. So on December 23rd of 2011, Betsy decided that her best option would be to make Pam Hupp the sole beneficiary of her $150,000 life insurance policy so that she could give it to her daughters when they were old and smart enough. Oh yeah, what a great idea. 4 days later would be the last time anyone would ever talk to Betsy Faria. Tuesday, December 27th appeared to be a normal day where everything was going to plan. Every Tuesday, Russ went to hang out with his friends and watch movies or play games. Betsy had chemotherapy that day and she went to it, and for a few days she was staying at her mother's house. Russ told Betsy he would pick her up there, but then later Betsy texted Russ saying that Pam offered to bring her back to their home in Troy. So Russ said okay and went to his friend's house and watched a movie and then left to go home. He tried to call Betsy while on his way there and she didn't pick up, but he wasn't too worried about it because she said she was feeling tired because her white blood cell count was low. So he decided to stop by Arby's and get some food. Arby's is pretty good. Soon Russ would get home and he walked through the door, and then he put the dog food that he bought earlier in the garage, and then he started calling out for Betsy. He began looking around when he didn't hear any answers, and what he saw next was terrible. Russ found Betsy face down in a pool of blood with a knife in her neck. So he called 911, and the culprit was very easily identifiable. Pam Hupp had talked to the police and told them that she thinks she has a pretty good idea who did this. She told investigators that Russ had a violent temper, and she suggested that they check Betsy's computer. So the police checked Betsy's computer, and they found a note from her saying that she was afraid of Russ and what he was going to do to her. Pam also told investigators that Betsy was planning to tell Russ that she was leaving him later that night. So to the police, it was very obvious that Russ was the one responsible for this, even though 4 of his friends swore under oath he was hanging out with them. Regardless of this, the police felt they had the right person, and their evidence was blood that was found on a pair of Russ's slippers in his closet. One day after Betsy's funeral, on January 4th of of 2012, Russ was charged with first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. So that's where our story ends, right? Wrong. Russ Faria would maintain his innocence for years to come, and he claimed that it wasn't him responsible. In 2015, a judge ordered a new trial for Russ, and this time his lawyers were allowed to blame Pam Hupp. In Russ's first trial, his lawyers were barred from suggesting that Pam murdered Betsy to get her life insurance policy, and so the jury found him guilty. During Russ's new trial, his lawyers suggested that Russ had been framed by Pam. Pam immediately rebutted and said that her and Betsy had been having a romantic relationship and that Russ had recently found out and went berserk. Things were starting to really look like Pam was the one responsible for Betsy's murder, and so in August of 2016, things really got taken up a notch. Pam Hupp shot and killed a 33-year-old man named Louis Gumpenberger. She claimed he broke into her house, threatened her with a knife, and demanded that she drive him to the bank to get Russ's money. The investigators would find $900 and a note on Louis's body that read, "Take Hupp back to the house, get rid of her, make look like Russ' wife, make sure knife is sticking out of her neck." The police were not buying it because it was obvious that Pam had forged the note, and also Louis was in a very bad car accident in 2005. It left him with permanent physical disabilities and diminished mental capacities, and he lived with his mom who said he rarely left the house. The police realized that Pam had lured Louis to her home by asking him to reenact a 911 call for Dateline, and they also found another witness who claimed Pam tried to do the same to them. The money that was found on Louis's body was also traced back to Pam. So on August 23rd of 2016, the police arrested Pam, and she tried to get rid of herself 2 days later with a pen. Then a few years later, in August of 2019, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The police also started to look into other people that had passed away that knew Pam. One of those people was her own mother, Shirley Newman. In 2013, Shirley apparently died after falling from her balcony, and her autopsy showed that she had 8 Ambien in her system. Due to this, Pam and her siblings all received a ton of money from insurance payouts. Oh wow. Sounds familiar? So during Russ's second trial, it was found that Pam had pocketed the $150,000 life insurance policy that Betsy asked to give to her daughters, and it was found that Pam had contradicted herself multiple times during police interviews. She said she never entered Betsy's house after driving her home, but later retracted that story and said she did enter the house and went to Betsy's bedroom. A CSI agent named Amy Buettner said she believes the slippers found in Russ's closet were dipped in blood and not by stepping in it. On November 7th of 2015, enough evidence was brought forward that Russ's conviction was overturned, and he was released from prison after serving almost 4 years for doing nothing wrong. In July of 2016, he filed civil lawsuits against 3 sheriff's deputies and Leah Womack Cheney, formerly Askey, who was the prosecutor. 5 years later, in July of 2021, the Lincoln County prosecutor Mike Wood announced that Pam would be charged with first-degree murder for the death of Betsy. This same month, Betsy's daughters apologized to their stepfather for originally not believing him and what he had to go through.
Something I could say to Russ, it would be, at the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry for all the things you went through. If I could go back, I would, but I can't change the past, so we can just move forward and hope for justice.
Russ ended up being granted $2 million from his lawsuit. Betsy Faria was a kind, hardworking woman who already had enough struggles to deal with. She met someone many years prior who loved her and wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, and sadly that was cut short. He was then wrongfully convicted and spent years behind bars for something that he didn't do. I'm glad that justice has been served and that the actual culprit has been caught and is being dealt with. I hope that Betsy is resting peacefully and her former husband Russ is now with someone else, so good for him. I hope he's doing okay. As for Pam Hupp, enjoy prison, you piece of shit. But anyways, thank you for watching this episode of High Time Crime. If true crime is your thing, then please subscribe and hit the like button because that's all we do. I also have a second account with my brother named Horrifying where we tell stories about everything paranormal. This includes true crime, mysteries, and things that are just downright spooky. I'd greatly appreciate if you subscribe to that too. The link's in my bio. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, friend.